Because I have been a neglectful content creator. I'm doing this now, right now, immediately before I forget. In case I haven't already bored you to death with promos at least 100 times before, let me give you a refresher. I'm Caez, a non-binary parent who makes comics and shares their experiences with the online community via YouTube, speed paints, in the works. My work is primarily funded through Patreon, and it's supplemented with commissions and adoptables as well. A few months ago, I offered an unofficial Patreon exclusive deal. Long story short, if you pledged to my Patreon and messaged me your series, I would review it and give it a small shout out in one of my YouTube videos. The only stipulation being it couldn't be hateful, offensive, or graphic. Yes, I know, I do make adult-themed comics, but 100% of my exclusively not safe for work content is not available to the public eye. So I try to keep my channel relatively safe for work, even if I tend to push it sometimes. That's not the point. Pakara, I owe you a promo. Let's do this. 2 things. 1. Pakara is a webcomic creator who captured my heart sometimes last year when I started to see her lengthy, in-depth comments on each of my lucky episodes as she began to read through my series. If there's one way to my heart, it's through the comments, and seeing anyone get excited about my story and the details that most other readers might have skipped over is an automatic yes for me. So I'm excited to do this for more reasons than just the Patreon incentive. And 2. Pakara's series only has 188 subscribers. Why? Alright, let's get into it. Leftovers, a Hoenn Saga. Summary. 19-year-old Asadi spontaneously sets off on a transformative journey across Hoenn, meeting new faces, seeing new places, and struggling to balance the responsibilities of a Pokemon trainer with those of impeding adulthood and the baggage of the past. Oh man, if you haven't already guessed it, sorry if I stammer. If you haven't already guessed it, this is a Pokemon series. Now, I do feel it's important to share some of the disclaimers Pakara has at the beginning of the series, so y'all aren't going in here blind. First things first, it's an original story set in Hoenn that follows her original characters with a few canon characters sprinkled in, but it is only loosely based off of the original stories of the game. I find this incredibly charming because I was a Pokemon kid back in the 90s. I know, I'm old. The comic originally started back in 2015. Hey, so did Lucky. Webcomic twins. And was originally posted on DeviantArt, so the formatting for the first chunk of the story isn't attuned to the typical Webtoon standard. But I will interject here to say that I think that adds to the charm of it. It is very fun to read. And Pakara also adds that the artwork in the beginning starts out rough, but y'all know me. I love a good story that also shows long-term art progress along the way. It's visually interesting in the beginning and even more so towards the latest episodes, as you will see in this video. I'm putting some examples. Admittedly, I've only made it 14 episodes in because I actually want to be able to read what I'm reading, and sometimes I will read something distracted and not actually pay attention. I'm sorry, but I'm a fan. I think the main character is so appealing, and it's so interesting to see an MC in a Pokemon story go on their journey a little bit later in life compared to the typical Pokemon adventure lore, which I think is like 10 years old. Oof. Imagine being 10 and getting kicked out of the house. I'm also super intrigued by the dynamic between Asadi and her new Mudkip companion. It is Mudkip, right? I get the names mixed up. I stopped paying attention after the 2nd generation. That's how old I am. I can't wait to see how this story plays out. Reading the series so far has been a great pastime. The nostalgia is wonderful. The art and the traditional formatting in the beginning is actually really charming, and the art gets really, really, really visually appealing. This just scratches a very particular itch that I have, and I love it. I'm very excited to start reading on and to see, because I've seen the art in the later chapters, as I have examples here, but I haven't read through the story yet, so I'm excited to see what's actually happening. It's very pretty, it's very fun. I envy your persistence with drawing backgrounds in every single panel, and also crowds and several characters. And the action scenes so far have me really excited. Anyway, go check out Leftovers Hoenn Saga on Webtoon Canvas. I'll link that down below, and check out Bakara's YouTube channel while you're there. Thank you so much for the ongoing support, Bakara. And yeah, if you like the series, make sure to leave comments on her episodes and send lots of love. We support creators over here, and I know Bakara is known for leaving essay-long comments on other people's stuff, so it'd be cool if we could return the favor. Get that series to more than 188 subscribers, please. It totally deserves it. And if y'all like these little promos or would like to have me make a promo for your series as well, consider checking out my Patreon. My $10 tier is officially the tier that includes a video promo, so give it a look over, and if you do decide to pledge, DM me your series and we can talk about the details. Again, the only stipulation is that your series should not be offensive, hateful, or graphic. Please and thank you. I'm not going to put anything like that on my YouTube channel. I have a platform and I will try to use it responsibly. Speaking of Patreon, you'll notice something a little bit different about this speed paint. This is weird for me. This is something a little outside of my wheelhouse. A familiar face, if you will. Oh my god, yeah, it's fan art. Caez never does fan art anymore. Why? Why? Well, simply because I have 100,000 other things to do, so when I do have free time to draw whatever I want, it's usually ideas I've been sitting on for my own characters. It's rare for me to like something outside of my own IP enough to make fan art of it. Well, okay, well, except for Sleek. And I do consider Sleek fan art because that's not my character. That's Max's character. Even if they are a character based off of my webcomic lore. Anyway, it's fan art. But the reason this is significant is because I want to do more fan art through Patreon. It is actually a goal. Once I reach higher monthly goals, I'll start taking polls for fan art from my patrons and requests. I have rewards tiers on there where people use their rewards to get commissions of their OCs from me. Sometimes, if a patron doesn't know what they want for the month, but they still want to cash in on their reward, because you can opt out. You don't have to get a reward if you're still pledged to me, but if you want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. Some people don't opt out and they want to cash in on that instead, even if they have no idea what they want. So they'll ask me to draw one of my own characters, usually Lucky, or they tell me to do whatever I want for the month using their reward, which is fun for me because it gives me an excuse to draw something I've been wanting to draw, but I don't prioritize it because it's not considered a Patreon reward or a commission or whatever. So yeah, one of my longtime patrons and friends, Cherry, is notorious for giving me free spaces throughout the year. And if that name sounds familiar, Lucky readers might know her from the guest comic from last year, a few months back, a while back, that she did for Lucky with her polyam ship of her shifter OCs Blue and Aurora and my OC Ghost. Anyway, Cherry gave me this free space for a bust, but I've done busts for most of my own characters already. And while I was working on my commission stuff this past week/weekend, I have been catching up on Critical Role. Honestly, guys, I'm probably not going to finish Campaign 2. I'm just not that invested. I know, that's a crime. And when I started Campaign 3, I wasn't really vibing with it. I was like, But then I got into it and I got really attached to the characters, so I was catching up this weekend. And I decided to take this rare opportunity to draw my favorites from the new campaign. Obviously, I vibe with Dorian. I don't know, falling for the blue characters seems to be a theme for me this year. If you're listening to the new campaign, who's your favorite from the group? And no, I have not watched the first campaign at all, so I know nothing about that. I am very new. I am not an OG fan, and I put this off for a long time. If you know me, you know I did not want to listen to it because it was too much material to catch up on. But yeah, who's your favorite from the new group? And I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but Dorian was not my first favorite. My first favorite obviously didn't get to stay a favorite for long. Some of these characters are just so effortlessly funny, and for what? Like, there's just no reason. Caez. Are we talking about fan art today? Or are we talking about Critical Role or what? I don't really know what you're doing here. I don't either. Actually, I'm talking about something else entirely. I love my OCs. I love my stories and my world building and my own projects so much. I'm so stingy with my time outside of commissions and adoptables. But you know what I love more than playing by myself with my own characters and my own universe for years on end? I love when I get to drag my other friends into it. I used to be so selfish with my ships and my characters and my ideas. Like, I did not want to share anything. It was all mine. And while I think it's totally fair to want to be precious with your stories, I also think I spent so much time depriving myself of the harmless rabbit hole joy of sharing my stories and lore and ships with my friends and their characters. I started Lucky resolute in the idea that I was never, ever going to let it be a group project. And for the most part, it is mostly stuff that I put together. But I have gradually started to take bits and pieces of ideas from my friends, and it kind of turned into this weird amalgam of ideas. All the characters originally I wanted to be 100% mine. I didn't want to be responsible for anybody else's characters in my story. The main thing being, when I first started Lucky, I really thought it was going to blow up immediately, and I was afraid that if I put other people's characters in there and then maybe a fan or a reader or somebody didn't like my friends' characters, I would have to go to their defense. But relatively, people are usually chill about all of the characters in Lucky, even the ones that I don't necessarily like. There is a character for everybody. But yeah, in the beginning, all of the lore and the stories and side plots were gonna be 100% my own. No one else was allowed to have residence in this entire universe that I created. But you know what's funny about that? I don't know what my logic was at the time. I think I was trying to protect myself and my ideas, but immediately after I started this concept and started working on this story, making the decision that it wasn't going to be any sort of collaboration of any type, I started making adoptables, shifter adoptables, that I sold to hundreds of people over the years. Characters that technically, based off of my own lore and canon, exist in the universe that I'm writing for, in the series that I've created. It's hard to be stingy when you start to share so much lore and character ideas with so many other people. I love Lucky. It's kind of like my main fandom. Yeah, I know. Anyway, the most fun that I've had with creating this series over the years has been pulling my friends into the story with me. You want to know how many characters in this series don't even belong to me? So many. It's probably a problem how many characters there are in this story, but I just love them so much. Mags is a huge chunk of that. I have just a big group of characters of hers that I am being annoying about, and slowly but surely collecting, wink wink, an entire moon of her shifter characters, no foreshadowing there, because I just love them so much. And I have no plans for them, but I love them so much. They are so near and dear to my heart. But like, what are you doing if you're not goofing off with your friends in your own fiction and your own stories? Specifically because I don't want somebody to say, oh, well, I don't have any friends who are interested in my stuff. Like, I know I was there too. I didn't get friends who were interested in my stories until much later in life. I'm 30 now. But specifically, this is for the people who are like me, when you did start to have friends who were interested in your stories, but, you know, you wanted to be sacred with your ideas. People who have friends who are interested and want to join in on the fun of your creations, not to dissect it or rearrange it or offer some advice or some suggestions or recommendations, because your story is your story, and usually your friends will be respectful of that, but people who genuinely want to appreciate it for what it's worth. Some of your biggest supporters as a creator are going to be the friends who have been invested in your stories and your characters since day one, if you let them. Maybe you have an original idea that you're playing around in. Let your friends come up with characters they'd write stories for if they got to exist in that universe. Maybe you never do anything with it. Well, still, you got to have this fun and exciting experience of creating these stories and these characters with your friends. And you know what? Maybe later down the line, you'll make or you'll join a D&D campaign and get to use these characters. They've already got backstories and relationships and lore that you can just interject into this other setting. You know, like, you can reuse ideas. That's the fun part. But yeah, let your friends come up with stuff based on your lore and see how they get creative with it. You're not obligated to use every idea in your story if your friend comes up with a character or a side plot or whatever. You don't have to put that in your story. Make sure that that's perfectly clear because you don't want anybody's feelings to get hurt. But it is still a fun experience. It's a fun way to share your creations with one another. I think it's fun. Like I mentioned before, I don't know, did I say this in one of my videos? I might have. Back in, middle school, my friends and I used to pass around a notebook where we would draw comics, like collab comics. And we would just trade it between classes and just continue on with the story. No plan, just goofing off. Kind of like role-playing. I don't know. Maybe that's what you would have called it back then. I don't know. But it's just fun. It's a fun exercise. In my experience, though, I do have a hard time not including all of my friends' characters here and there. And if you're worried about your friends stealing your ideas, that's probably a video for another day, but you might need better friends, honestly. That sounds like it might be for a younger audience, because if your friends are trying to rip off your ideas, then they're not really great friends to have around. Obviously protect your ideas and only indulge them with the people you trust, blah, 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 but don't be like me and don't isolate yourself in the experience of creation. Depending on what your friend group looks like, you might have your first wave of beta readers right there. Good to go. If they like it and they support you and want to help you thrive, practice creating with them. Some of my best storytelling brainstorms happened while rambling with a friend or two. Honestly, some of the coolest character creation were collaborations. That's all I'm gonna say. Mostly, it's just me yelling at Mags about Sleek every other day. I'm sorry, Mags, I love you. I know it's all I ever talk about, but can you blame me? Do you see what you created? You did this. You made them like that. They have a literal chili pepper on their titty, and you thought I would have any modicum of self-control over the Scorpio with a monster spine and xenomorph tail? I think not. Back me up here. Anyway, go brainstorm with your friends. And I don't know, maybe you'll be lucky like me and have one of your besties create a character that's so irresponsibly hot that it'll just completely disrupt your entire story writing process and make you question why you even did all this work in the first place. I'm totally kidding. We can roll with the punches. Just a bump in the road. An 8-foot tall bump in the road. Completely reasonable. It's fine. What am I doing? If you like what I do and you want to help support my dream of making my webcomics, plural, full-time, please check out my Patreon. It's the best place to support me and other things that I am doing on the side. If you want to follow me, you can follow my day-to-day stuff on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, all under Caez Hell, same as my YouTube channel. And if you haven't yet, please go check out my webcomic Lucky. It is on Webtoon Canvas and soon to be migrating over to Tapas. Did I already say the title? Anyway, it's Lucky. It's an LGBT sci-fi drama about a shapeshifter who travels to Earth to escape his destiny, but there's a bounty hunter there who has other plans. It's a lot of fun. You might like it. You might not. You never know until you try. I will see you guys in the next video. All right, bye.